What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of Arena Goat Talk, bringing on the legends of this game, telling their story, having them, let them tell their story and give you guys tips along the way. The guest for this show is a special one for me because it's one player that I looked up to the most in my days. Former lineman of the year, Hall of Famer, one of the best pass rushers to ever do it. I guess Mr. Sam Hernandez. How you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Thank you, EJ. It's been great. I appreciate you bringing us all on, and especially me.
Yeah, like I said, I always definitely wanted to, sit down with you and talk a little bit, pick your brain. I wasn't the most talkative when we played, so I wish, if I talked more when we played, I probably would have been bugging you, trying to pick your brain a little then, but, I was real competitive, so I didn't really talk. I was just like, I wanted to win a championship. You know how that goes. So just being competitive back in the day.
Absolutely.
So we'll just get into your story. Let's start out where you from, and let's kind of get into your story, how you got introduced to the sport of football, and let's talk about up until high school, and then we'll move on from there.
No problem. Sounds good. Again, for me, up until high school, it goes pretty quick.
All right. So where are you from originally?
I'm actually from the Bay Area, San Jose, basically California, where I live now, and most of my family is from.
So everybody's from the San Jose area. Okay.
Everybody's from the Bay Area, yeah, San Jose area, pretty much. And I have a large extended family. So lots of cousins, I'm full 100% Mexican. And, there's a lot of cousins in that, a lot of siblings, my mom had a lot of siblings and dad.
Okay. So when did you start playing football?
I actually started as a little leaguer, like 12 years old and 11 years old. And, they kind of, got a bunch of kids, and I'm from obviously I'm from a lower income area. So they kind of came around the elementary schools, and they just said, "Hey, we got this football thing going on," and they just kind of let us play. And it was back then. It was not. I don't know who was paying for it, but it was very, not expensive. So. I was able to play, and so that was great. I mean, I'm not sure your background, but the opportunity was far and few in between back then, so it was awesome.
All right. So when you first started out, what position did you play?
I was like a nose guard and a tight end, and just kind of running around. Didn't really know much. 11, 12, 13 years old, even up to 13, I kind of moved around, played a little fullback, but, and then eventually in high school, like an outside linebacker.
Mm-hmm. So in high school, you were outside linebacker the whole time?
Correct. But what was interesting was because I was on the younger end, I maybe started 4 games in 4 years. Excuse me. I maybe started 3 or 4 games in 2 years of varsity football. So was definitely a late bloomer.
So high school is you were just kind of filling the game out and seeing where how much you like it and all that stuff.
Just undersized kid just running around, not very strong, but just undersized and. Playing linebacker and just not, like I said, not a lot, so didn't get a lot of opportunity, and then grew late.
How big were you in high school?
My license when I turned 16, I still have it. Said 5'9", 130 pounds.
Okay, and so by the time you got to be a senior. What was your size then?
Well, I played my whole senior year of football as a 16-year-old.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't turn till late November. I didn't turn 17. So I probably graduated at about 6 foot.
Okay.
And then grew to about 6'3" plus. The whole after I went at full growth spurt to the top of my height after high school.
Okay. And so when you have your senior year of high school, what did that whole process look like in, deciding if you wanted to play college ball and all that?
Well, there wasn't much, since I didn't really get a lot of snaps. They kind of had a junior college coach come in and they invited about 10 players or so, and I was not one of the 10. I just said, "Hey, can I show up?" And I just went to the meeting, and they didn't really know who I was because they were obviously interested in the guys who played, and I ended up playing JC ball, but they had no idea who I was.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so talk that experience where you ended up in junior college. I guess that experience of junior college, and then all right, what does it look like as you're going through those years of playing, and then progressing from there?
Well, I got to JC, and that JC was very strong at that time, back in the '90s, early '90s, and they had actually won the state, whatever. So when I got there again, I was unknown. So I was literally like the ninth string. I still remember the ninth string, which was the last guy, outside linebacker. And about, I don't know, 2 weeks after like summer training or getting ready for the season, they're like, "Hey, you need to switch positions because you're like not even," and they said you should go down to defensive end. And just by pure numbers, I was like the fourth defensive end. So I gained about 5 spots just by no one was there.
And so how was that transition for you?
It's a pretty cool kind of situation for me because I was fourth string, no expectations, and then one guy got hurt, so that got me down to third string, and then something happened. One guy got kicked off the team, and then so the first stringer, the guy who ended up was always playing, who was always like the first or second string guy, he got tired, and so they really had no other option but to put me in. Mm-hmm. So I had no idea what I was doing at defensive end, and basically what I did was when I heard the ball snap, I had no idea what I was doing. I just went to the gap. I didn't know what the play was, nothing. Just went to the gap, and like the first, second, or third play, I made a tackle for loss just because I was in the backfield. Mm-hmm. And really ended up that was my whole JC career, really, just being an unorthodox, less of a standard hold the guy up and all that type of guy. Mm-hmm.
Using your speed and athleticism at that point.
Just kind of quickness, I'm not very fast at the 40, but the first 10, obviously, you have a first step, and that was pretty much, mm-hmm. I had to rely on that.
Yeah. Okay. And so once you, I guess, how did you end up in JC? How did your career at the JC end, and then talk of that progression from junior college to the next step?
Well, like I said, after about the third or fourth game, then I ended up starting and just playing and having like a pretty solid, 2 good years. But because of my size, I was like 6'3", but really not strong in the weight room, really unorthodox. So, I didn't get recruited I did have some recruits, like some Power Fives, but mostly it was San Jose State. I went to a recruiting trip to like Towson State out in Baltimore and places like that. My grades were terrible. So I ended up going to D2, small school, Sonoma State, up in Northern California.
Mm-hmm. All right. So how was that experience? I'm a D2 guy myself. I ended up going to West Liberty State, which is in West Virginia.
Okay.
Situation. I had bad grades and all that stuff too. And and I was 6'2" all through high school. I was how you were a late bloomer. I was 6'2" when I was in 8th grade, but I was the tall, skinny kid.
Right.
But I didn't have the grades, and so in my career in high school, all I did was, like you mentioned, I was shooting gaps and just getting out, just getting through there. And so, how was your experience at the D2 level at Sonoma State?
Well, after I fell off the boards because I couldn't get into like certain schools, San Jose State, Towson, they were offering me scholarships. I wasn't like, hey, we want to give you scholarships. They were like barely giving to me. They're like, okay, I think we like, but then my grades were so poor, bad grades that I wasn't able to get in. So I ended up going D2 where they were able to get me into school. And that was the route that I took. And obviously when you're D2, you're more of their higher recruits. So they really kind of hold your hand and help you a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I ended up there. And to be honest, I loved it. It was great. Small school, but small town. But, when you're like big fish in a little pond, right?
Yes.
So it was very little pond, but, big fish. And then we ended up actually getting, my second year, we ended up actually getting Larry Allen, who's obviously NFL Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
wow. And so, I was the first guy to play out of college, and then he obviously just went to the moon,
Mm-hmm.
So he was similar situation, kind of no grades, basically.
Mm-hmm. For him. How was it like competing against him in college?
Amazing. He was an animal. He was a beast at that age. Just putting up 425 pounds like it's he was a man amongst boys. But for me, it was great because he wasn't eligible my second year of college, but he was still able to practice somehow, and trying to get around him was pretty cool. I mean, I claim to fame, probably able to get him a few times at practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
A legend, but but he so that was cool. That was nice. We had great coaching at that time. For D2 school, our defense coordinator ended up being the coach at TCU for like 15, 20 years, Gary Patterson.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So how did you feel your progression was? How did you feel your progression was at Sonoma, and because you ended up being player of the year a couple times, correct?
Correct.
So how soon did you feel like, oh, I got the hang of this, and how soon did it, how long did it think it took before you can get to that point?
Honestly, about game 2 of my first year at Sonoma, at the time, Coach Patterson, the defense coordinator, called me in and said, "Dude, you're killing my linebacker. You're not holding the guy up. You're not doing anything. So you just keep flying the gaps, and you're making plays. He's cussing, right? He's making effing plays, but you're getting my linebacker killed." He said, "I'm only going to tell you this. I don't care what you do. Go make a play. But you better make that damn play if you're gonna get it. If you're not gonna follow any rules." So, kind of gave me the confidence and green light. He said, "I fully believe in you." He didn't say it that way. He said, "Go. You better get your ass and make some plays." So, I was able to get a ton of sacks, like not a ton, but I was able to get some sacks just because I had free, gaps.
Mm-hmm. So they kind of like, instead of you had the down block, and they want you to kind of hold up that offensive lineman so that your backer can roam free, and they're saying, you know what, you're just making plays. Just go ahead and do it.
Basically, he said that. Yeah, basically he said that. So it was kind of cool, because I wasn't strong. I wasn't. Matter of fact, people would be like, if they're like, okay, I hear about this the second year. They're like, I hear about the Sam Hernandez guy, but like who is like, and he goes, my buddy would say, he goes, that's him? He goes, he looks like a basketball player. He's like 230 pounds, 25 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
So it was. When I say unorthodox, I'm not lying.
Like like I said, just thinking about my career. Like I said, you didn't know this because I didn't talk that much, but a lot of the things that or my story or whatever, I kind of looked at you like, yeah, like it was kind of like inspiration for me because I was always looked at that way as an undersized guy to the
And
point where.
trust me, I know who was getting after it.
Yeah, but you know how coaches
I pretended like I didn't know.
We're all in competition. You don't want to say nothing. So, maybe eventually we'll talk.
Right. I pretended like I didn't, but I know who was getting after it, and you were definitely one who was getting after it. Yeah. He's like me, man. He's undersized dude.
And the coaches walk up and they see the stats or whatever, and they're like, that's him?
Right.
They're just like, yeah, but for me, it was like, it wasn't like I wanted to go and try to convince you with my words. If that's how you feel about me, let me go ahead and take that as motivation and get back on this field. You know what I mean? I didn't want to try to talk you into, hey, this is me. Yeah, I'm the guy now. Just, all right, I hear you, underestimating me or whatever. Right. And like I said, looking at you and your story, like, man, that's me. That's me all the way. So, watching film, you ain't know this, but I was scouting you, trying to figure out your moves.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's we play with a chip on our shoulder, right?
Yes.
And you don't say nothing, like you say. We don't say nothing, but man, it fueled you. Being undersized and so in college, having that confidence going into the next level. Not getting drafted by the NFL, having them come take a look at me, a couple times, just can't run the 40, couldn't get the 40 time down. Bench press was terrible. So, just again, unorthodox, not for the NFL, for the big game. But, it was okay.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get introduced to the arena game?
Well, after college, someone called me to come play in this other league. It was a spring league that was starting up. And that coach was the former NFL guy. His name was Craig Morton. He was the coach of the team. So that league didn't end up taking off. So the coach of an arena league team in Charlotte asked him if he had any guys that he thought would work for him in the arena league. And he gave him my name, and they called me, and I'm like everybody else who played in the arena league. When they first got that call, they're like, I'm not playing. What's the arena league? What's that? Like, come on, And I ended up going to Charlotte my first year out of college to play, and it wasn't a great year. I was learning the game, and I was terrible, to be honest, because I didn't know the game yet, and I was just trying to like wrestle with the guy trying to get to the quarterback, and that's not the game. You got to get there and
right now,
right,
every step is deliberate.
Right. So that my first year was in Charlotte, and just I didn't do very well because I was just kind of learning the game. My blocking was super suspect.
I definitely understand that. When I first got into arena, I was 240 at the most.
Wow.
To the point where, except it was that year that I played in the Deuce, and I had 27 and a half sacks.
Yeah, that's when I heard about it.
You had to block, and all they did was slide me down every single time. And
right.
Every once in a while, they leave me one-on-one on the outside. But as far as blocking, I'm sliding down, helping out the center most of the time because I didn't know what I was doing blocking wise.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. Yeah. That's now you said that, I absolutely remember when you came up because they're like, yeah, this dude he's killing it at the Deuce, right? And so that's pretty cool. I mean, you were ready, like, oh boy, I got it. The next level, like all of us, right?
Just hungry. You weren't thinking. It wasn't until you're a couple years in that you start thinking. Right. You got to think more because you're going to slow down eventually. So now all of a sudden, everybody, you're no longer sneaking up on anybody. Everybody knows who you are, and now all of a sudden, you got to start thinking a little bit more.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. So, yeah, we're very similar paths. And, then, like I said, I got cut the second year. They didn't bring me back. And I called around. I got cut from Charlotte because I didn't play well. I mean, to be honest, I didn't know the game well enough, or I didn't know. And I ended up getting picked up. I sat out a year and to get picked up by a Vegas team, expansion team. And I'm like, I ain't doing that. I know what I did wrong. And so I ended up having a good year. And what it was, EJ, was I called around like 7 teams after I got cut, like 2 days before training camp of the next year, literally a day or two. And hey man, we got our camp full. We don't need a guy. Just really fueled me. That I called, and my last call was to Arizona, and I remember the guy saying, and I know his even name because he was general manager. I'm like, hey, I'm available. I got cut. And he's like, nah, we got guys that are better. That we have a really good group of guys that are better than you. This and that. And he was, and man, did I look for him every single game, bro.
I can imagine. It's just you just take it in. There's no point in arguing about it. That's how you feel. Okay.
Right. Like when I did come back, I was able to be totally, all those teams that said, we're good, we don't need you.
How did you end up in San Jose?
Well, I played that Vegas team was there for 2 years, then it moved to Anaheim, and we played in Anaheim for 2 years. Then that team disbanded, and we went into a dispersal draft, and I was picked up by San Jose. Picked up by San Jose. Yeah. To be honest, I was supposed to go to Orlando.
Okay.
But Jay picked me out of that dispersal draft, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm ready to go back home. I've been, in Anaheim and Vegas, and I wanted to stay the West Coast. I didn't want to go to the East Coast. Even though I knew Orlando was straight up always contending, right? You guys always contending. And, I asked at that time the SaberCat coach, hey, can you trade for me? Can you trade for me? And the very last minute, like the last week of the week before the game, it was able to happen. So Jay, didn't want to do it, but, I'm like, man, I just read it, and so we ended up in San Jose for the rest of the time. And, the team we ended up having years later.
Definitely. So I guess kind of speak on, the environment, the culture that you guys had out in San Jose.
Well, the first few years was like a lot of the other teams. Were you in the one team? Were you one team the whole time, EJ?
No, I was in Orlando for 3 years, and as you know how it goes. As soon as you build a name for yourself, teams start calling with money.
Right.
Start chasing money. That's what I ended up doing after my third year.
Where'd you go after Orlando? I know,
After Orlando, I went to Philly.
Oh, Philly.
Play for Bon Jovi.
Right.
And then after that, then I went to Chicago and then Utah. And then that's when the league, whatever.
Right. Yes. 08 or something?
08. Yep. Right after the 08 season, that's when the league kind of went down. And I was, in the middle of my kind of descent to be something pretty good. And then I kind of was done after that. I could have played more, but by the time the league came back, they weren't offering the same amount of money.
Correct.
And it's tough to come back and play for what they're asking you when you're kind of spoiled with the money that we were making at that time.
Right. And that's what happened to San Jose. The first years we were fluttering, and then I was wondering, like, why is Arizona so good? It's because they kept that core together, right? They had that core. So once about 99 hit, we started to get the core guys, and the guys changed from renegade type of guys to the quality of person changed in San Jose. And we started getting these a little more mature guys, but they really we just got a different type of player. And then so by 2000, we had already made this kind of like this turn the corner as far as like as a group organization, and then we had one of the best owners, right? So he started signing good players and quality players, and it just the culture turned around, and bam! About 2001, the team became player led, 100%.
So
100%.
So how was that environment for you? How was it for you? How do you feel like you developed in that atmosphere? And then overall, you as a player, how do you feel about how you developed over those years?
Again, I thought it was great. And what I was blessed is that most of the people that employed me, that picked me up, that college, they kind of understood that I was not, how do you say, a prototype type of player. So in San Jose, they also let me go, had a little problem sometimes offsides, right? But they really let me play. And I played a lot of offense. I learned how to block pretty well for an undersized guy, right? 250. We weren't, you know what I mean? We had to hold for a few seconds. So it was great. Like they let me, be me, but we also had a great bunch of guys, and those guys. When I say once we got to about 2000, the core guys didn't change for a lot of years. Those core guys didn't change. Grebe, James Rowe, Cleveland Thomas, all these guys was a core of like 10, 12 guys that didn't change. And so obviously a lot of pieces came in and out, right?
Yeah.
And so it was the atmosphere was great, and the owner treated us very well. We probably were, as far as any team concerned, even some of the NFL teams, we were treated well with breakfast and lunch, having our own plane. Our apartments were furnished with electronics. So, but he also was demanding, right? The owner was like, hey, I'm putting out these perks. We got to win.
Yes. Yes.
We got to win. Who was Church? Was Jay your coach or?
When I first went to Orlando, Fran Papasadero was the head coach, and Jay was playing.
Right.
All right. And so after that first year, sad, but Fran passed, and then Jay retired and went back to coaching because he was coaching before. Came out of retirement, when I came, and then once Fran passed, then he went back into coaching.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So our culture was definitely, led by the players and having expectations. And again, I was one of the guys that, I love to work out. But because my size, I couldn't take the beating as a normal guy. So I wasn't, I always, I was a workout guy on my own and on the side and I loved rehab. I loved getting my body right, and so, but I had to save myself for that Saturday game.
Did teams, again, when I think of you, I feel like I wasn't the first to experience certain things. All right. So, and you started before me. So teams like to do this versus me, which, they try to, since they know you got to block, they put the big, heavy bull rusher on you, trying to wear you down. That way, when you get on defense, they're hoping that you're tired. So did you experience, I know you got to do whatever it takes to kind of slow you down.
Right.
So teams did, things like that versus you as well.
Absolutely. Like I said, dang, we're very similar in the fact that They did that, and I tell you what, they even, you know, some of the offensive guys, obviously, you know, because when you come out first, you get an offensive lineman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, a lot of the games, the first 2-3 quarters were like, this guy's tossing me around. Like this dude is, you know, he knows I'm trying to get the corner or get inside, and he's tossing me. But by about the third and fourth quarter, I was still pretty fresh. I mean, not fresh, but
I know what you mean.
you know,
You're not getting tired.
Right.
You're going to run forever, and you're going to get tired eventually. And all I got to do is hit one home run. That'll change the game.
That's right. and so, yeah, so I definitely got that. And, you know, it's just funny towards the end of my career, I mean, you know, everybody knows who the premier players, we all know, right? The guys who really want to get it done, right? And
yes.
And so I would hear the last 3 or 4 years, he goes, they'd be throwing me down the first couple quarters. Come on, old man. I thought you were more than that. I thought you know, they would give me the whole speech. And they didn't know I heard it every game, right?
Uh-huh.
They didn't know I heard old man every game.
And then next thing you know, sack, force, fumble, touchdown. Okay.
Right.
Don't forget all the other plays that you actually got, you know, you're able to slow me down a little bit, but that one play changed the game. And you know how it is.
It only takes, right, exactly. The 1 or 2 stops, right?
Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about you when you had to block. How did that feel? And, you know, what was your mindset when you're like, oh man, I gotta block? You know, I can't just go out there and pass rush. I gotta go out and block. So kind of speak on you on the offensive side. What did you have to do to do what you have to do? You know, what they say, you got to do what you have to do in order to do what you want to do.
That's right. That's right. And so I knew I had at least one, I had to play at least one good series a quarter of offense. Good meaning I couldn't give it up. And so, you know, I was just fighting, and I would, if I knew the guy was light, I was okay because I can kind of sit and hold them up and grab them. But if the guys that bothered me were the guys who were more like 280 and strong, 290. The big guys I can kind of like bear down and kind of, because they were slow, didn't have a lot of moves, but it was the guys that are 280, 275, you know, that were beasts, that were a little tough, that I had to like, okay, I'm at the form, I'm at the punch. I got to punch him just to get that to slow him down a little bit, you know. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I mean, I want to get to defense. So I'm like, I'm not letting them take me out. I'm, you know, out of the game. I'm going to play offense because I want to get at least 2 a quarter, maybe 3.
The guys who gave me the most trouble were the same. The 280s, 275s, the 285, even 290. The big guys who are strong that can give you a spin or something. I would take the big bull rushers all day. Like, you know, it's like like Jermaine Smith. You know how massive his bull rush was, but I'd rather have to sit down on that than a big guy who you sit down on him, then he spins on you.
And his hands, right.
You know what I mean? Like I got to sit down on this, and then you shoot your hands, and then he swats your hand, and then you fall forward.
Right.
You had to sit down so much. Those are the guys that give me so much trouble.
Right. Yeah. And Jermaine Smith is a good example of like, okay, this dude, I'm going to have to punch as hard as I can, but I ain't letting this dude take me out of the game because I want to go back to defense. And I was like, that specifically that guy, I'm like, I have to punch this dude hard just so I can sustain the rush, right?
Yes. He had the most massive bull rush that in my time, you know, but he was a bull rush guy. He had moves every once in a while, and you felt like you can kind of see what he's kind of doing, but that bull rush is what he wanted to do. Especially when you saw the smaller guys, like, I'm going to run him over.
Right. So, yeah, but exactly. So, yeah, so, I mean, again, you know, we fought and scratched, and I was good blocking, you know, up until my last year. Then I started to get like, okay, this my offense is starting to suck, you know. and then that's when they played a little. I was able to play a little more defense at the end. I think my last year was 2006, or 5. So yeah, it was. I was blessed. Like I said, playing on such a great team and a career that people say me and a couple of buddies, old arena guys, would say, call what you want. But back then, in the SaberCats, we made a living out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We made a living out of it, and I'm sure you too. But our owner paid. I would just say paid everyone, but paid me particularly very well. So I was able to move into my next, what I actually still do now. So that was good.
Okay, so let's talk about you on the defensive side, right? So it's 3rd and long. What is your mindset? What are things that you are looking for in your stance? High motion, offensive lineman. What are things that you are looking for as a player? When it's like games on the line, 3rd and long, and you want to get this sack.
I can't hear anything but standing at the very closest to the line of scrimmage to see if I can hear the snap count, or as they're running out to see if I can hear the quarterback one more time tell somebody what the snap count is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm listening for that first. Like that's all I'm doing. I'm just standing there, trying to listen for that, and then I'm looking to see if this guy's how close he is to the center, if he's gonna slide. So, and I'm looking for that, and then I don't even care what the play is called. If he takes gives me a big gap, then I'm like leaning all towards. You want to hear this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm leaning all towards the outside, like I'm on a speed rush, and I'm just taking I don't even know if I'm taking a step, but I'm just going as hard as I can inside. If he gives me a bigger gap than or if not, I'm just going to try to speed rush him. So those are the two things. But I'm looking for cues before that. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. So, you're like, oh, man, this is the time to make the play. It was like something that people who don't play the sport in front of a bunch of fans probably can't imagine what that feels like.
Mm-hmm. So did you look for, how some D linemen, their goal is to get into the offensive lineman and feel what's going on, feel if he's leaning or kind of feel his balance. Was that something that you looked at, or you were looking at the first initial thing and kind of making your mind up on what you wanted?
One move, EJ, done. You grab me, I might be done. One move. Unless it's a spin move. Usually it's up the field, slap as hard as I can and go inside, or just a straight up run the hoop. I would run a lot of hoops in practice, run a lot of hoops, get as low as I can with the lean. Don't touch me, man. I didn't want those big, strong dudes on me.
That's funny. For me, it was time the motion. I'm trying to slap, rip, and go. And if I get a cue from there, you don't get out your stance fast enough, I feel you get out your stance late, then I may try to adjust. One thing that I added, I think I might have got this from Briggs.
Okay.
You take your inside foot and you're acting like you're going inside. As
right.
The high motion man's going, you kind of, it's not that you're coming out of your stance. It's just like you're moving your foot like I'm about to go inside.
Right.
That offensive lineman's feet to sit down, and then you run the hoop anyway.
That exact thing, EJ. That exact thing. I would lean heavy. I'm like, I'm going inside. And I would just turn the linebacker or whatever behind me, and I'd be like, just a quick turn, just to let them think that I'm going.
Yep. That might have came from you. Briggs might have got that from you. I do remember you doing that on some film. And towards the end of my career, I added that. Like I didn't do that. I didn't do that at first. That was just me watching film. Like, oh, that's nice. I gotta add that.
I don't know if he got it from me. By all means, I don't know. But I played. He played. We played 1 year together. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, there was. Those exactly were the things. It was like fake hard in and then go out and speed rush, or or, if he's going to jump out at me, I'm going to slap as hard as I can.
Mm-hmm.
The stiff guys were obviously my favorite guys.
Yes.
If they had muscle, if they had too much, anybody stiff that's what I liked.
You try, you try to follow them because it's not like the offense can double team you necessarily, which I have, I know you have as well, come across that every once in a while, which is like you shouldn't be getting double teamed as a defensive lineman because that means somebody's wide open.
Right.
But you know how it goes. If you get an offensive lineman, I gotta make that team cut you. Like I have to come after you so hard that they have to pull you and mess up their rotation.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And obviously it'd be great to knock out a quarterback, but I was going for the ball every time.
Yep, that was it. That was me as well. Like I'd rather knock the ball out your hand than to have one of those bone crushing hits on the quarterback. Which
absolutely,
I'd rather take that ball out your hand because that hurts the whole team. That whole team way worse.
You're the coach. That was the golden thing, and that's obviously you can get a sack and they'll get a touchdown next play, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you strip the ball, it's over. That's a whole big possession.
Definitely. So what are you doing nowadays? Now that everything's done, I guess what was your path after football? So, where you at now? What are you doing nowadays?
Well, I stayed in the Bay Area after obviously San Jose, ended up getting married way back in 2001. So I stayed here at the time. My first daughter was born in 2002, and end of 2002, and I had twins after that. But I ended up staying here. Even during when I was playing, I had some childhood buddies who were into real estate, and I got into that and started about 2001 in the off season. I had a partner at the time. And me and him were flipping houses.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were doing that, and 2008, 9, 10 hit. So boom, we had accumulated a bunch of rentals as a partnership and flipping houses and doing all this stuff, and then the whole economy fell apart, and so we had to readjust, and then we ended up going our separate ways. And so I continued doing that. I probably 2009, 2010, we had to stop and readjust. And then I probably got back in the game about end of 2011. And I've been doing that just exclusively since then.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So, in any itch to coach or anything like that since?
None. I coach. I have three daughters, so I coach them all in basketball. I was always basketball here, stuck in a non-athletic. Basketball is a whole nother level, right, of athleticism. Yeah. So stuck in a football body, but definitely started coaching basketball while I was playing. Also middle school, then I went to high school. Then my daughters, were born. I started coaching them, and. So no real itch to coach football. I couldn't even tell you what a defense would look like. People ask me over the years, "Hey, would you coach football?" Like a bunch of high school, like not a bunch, but high school guys or whatever. Hey, can you help us coach? I'm like, I don't know anything, man. I could help you. I can tell you defensive end how to get some cheat codes. I said, other than that.
Okay. All right. So,
do you coach? Did you coach?
I coached high school for like 17, 18 years, something crazy.
Oh, wow.
In high school, and I did Pop Warner to get started.
Right.
I coached with the Preds for 5 years. I was a head coach for almost 2 years, but you know how indoor goes. 1 minute you're here, and next minute, the team's not here, and
right.
luckily, it's a situation where I live in Orlando, so I didn't have to deal with the situation of going to Texas, taking a whole coaching staff and players, and then the team folds mid-season. Then all of a sudden, you got to come back. So,
Right.
that was a whole tough situation. That's a whole story for another day. But yeah, so most recently I was coaching with the Preds for about 5-6 years, and I was most recently the head coach here.
Really?
Yes.
For the Orlando Predators?
Yep, for the Orlando Predators.
When did it? Wow! Wow, that's awesome. When did that league? Is there Arena League still or not?
There is. It's AF1. And nowadays you have so many leagues. You have the IFL, and there's literally tons of different indoor leagues. So there's tons of options as far as playing indoors nowadays. So, but as far as the game that we all played, there's a new iteration of it. Nowadays, but it's called the AF1.
Okay.
So,
and you're no longer coaching now, or you are?
Right now, I'm sitting here waiting. If it happens, it happens. Other than that, football is not the only thing that I do. So if it happens, cool. If not,
right,
I'll keep. I'll proceed doing things that I do outside of coaching.
Right. Cool. Awesome.
So,
go ahead. That's your wife, I'm assuming, earlier, or
that was my wife that you.
Was that your wife earlier, or?
I can't hear you. Say that again.
Okay. Cool. Cool. I was just wondering if that was your wife earlier. That background.
Yep. That was my wife earlier. I got two kids. I got a 11-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry, we got a little misstep on the feed, but yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to hold you up too much, but is there any advice that you can give to players who are trying to play football nowadays? Like if you see a guy who's looking at trying to play pro ball or arena ball, what would you say to them as far as advice?
Well, first of all, when we played, I know a lot of people say maybe they don't have the heart, or I don't know that or not, but I know that these kids nowadays they have all the training, nutrition, and the science that they can really, if they love it, I would say go all in. If you don't have a backup plan, go all in. But if you don't love it and are willing to work. I see these basketball kids because I have 3 daughters. Like I said, they all play mid-major D1 basketball in college, and the amount of hours and work it takes, even on the women's side, is a huge commitment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate the question. I would ask you. You just coach these younger generation. How are they?
They are very, very athletic, very hungry. It's just a different, the approach is a little different as far as how you would coach them. So it's definitely a different game as far as their views of arena. Because back in the day when I played and you played, there weren't a whole lot of options. There was the NFL, CFL, XFL for a minute, maybe NFL Europe. Nowadays, you literally got the NFL, UFL, CFL, USFL, the 20, 30 different indoor leagues. There's just so many options. So, it's for the guys, they just have to find a league and play. But sometimes they get caught up in which one to play in, and if it's not a certain league, then they just don't want to play. You know what I mean? It's just up to them. If either you want it or you don't. You know, if you don't want it, find something to do. If you do want it, don't sit here and complain. You know, just get on the roster and get to work.
If you're here, be here. If you're here, be here.
That one thing that I hate the most is the guys who come along and all they do is bring baggage. Yeah, everyone else is trying to work, and all I hear is you chirping in the background. I don't want to do this, and this league is this, and this league over here, I want to play over there. Like, well, you're not in that league. You're here. So either you're here or you can get going. Go find something else to do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure being a head coach in any league is, being a head coach in the college, the women's basketball is tough. I can't imagine, coaching in the league as well. It's like, I'm sure there's a ton of challenges.
There definitely is. For me, I'm big on organization. And as long as we have organization, we can kind of sort through the rest. Yeah, you can have the passion, but, you don't know how to organize the guys. You don't know, what you should be looking at as far as getting, okay, these are the plays the other team likes to do. Let's focus on how do we stop that. Like, as long as you have the organization to put things together and you put together a good team around you to kind of help, you guys come together and let's kind of chip away at this. You can figure this thing out, and just also knowing how to talk to people.
Right.
You come across different coaches that just don't necessarily know how to talk to players.
Right.
Or they think football players are all cookie cutters, and you can talk to everybody the same way and think you're going to get the same results out of everybody. You may tear down the person, one guy, and you talk to that another player that same way, and it motivates them.
Right.
It's just knowing how to do that. If you know how to talk to people and you know how to organize, that was kind of my two biggest pieces.
Wow.
We'll figure out the rest.
Right. That's been a great communicator. I applaud you on that.
Yeah, appreciate that. So, but I don't want to hold you up any longer. I just wanted to, I definitely appreciate getting you on here and picking your brain a little bit and hearing your story and, being able to share that, with people that are listening. And, there's so many guys that they just need to hear that they're not alone in certain things that they went through in their football journey. We're not the only undersized guys.
Right.
There's guys who's been through that. So, but again, I appreciate having you on and, telling your story, and definitely for me, personally, just getting to talk with you.
I appreciate that. And like I said, I know you have this, undersized guy, but man, huge, competitive, all heart type of thing that, before that snap of the ball, able to take it to the next level. I don't care what league you're in, it's a job, and how many guys wanted our job.
Take a day off, and that might be your last day on the job.
That's it.
So, all right. So again, I'm not going to hold you up too much longer, but again, appreciate you coming on, and definitely look forward to, talking with you some more, and maybe, I'll be able to pick your brain and, stay in touch with you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, EJ, man. I appreciate it.
All right. No problem. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.